What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Thursday edition of Back Your Play with Q, BYP with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We are powered by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clements Bridge Road. And of course, one of our newest sponsors, Fresh Roasted Coffee. You'll see it in the show notes as well on the audio. That's on Spotify, Amazon. Go to the YouTube channel, click the link. And for your first purchase, if you click the link, pick out type of flavor that you like, and you'll get 20% off. Use the code word BYP20 or Back Your Play. And with that, we welcome in our good friend, our NFL insider, does a great job hosting his own show, Lloyd Vance's Insider Football 1029, The Game Sports Radio. And that, of course, is Southwest Florida's newest game in town. My guy, Lloyd Vance. What's going on, pal?
Well, great Q, man. We're getting closer to training camp.
Yes, we are, and we continue with our look around the NFL, breaking down the divisions as we typically do. We throw in the gambling and the betting lines, overs, unders, what you might have to lay, where you think you've got an opportunity to make some money. The NFC West, as we continue with the NFC, interesting division. A little bit of a changing of the guard there with Seattle and a new head coach. We saw the moves that Arizona made, Harrison Jr., the Rams overachieved, and then the 49ers. They're still trying to break through, right? Getting into the playoffs, divisional round, NFC championships, getting to the Super Bowl, just trying to break through. And right now, they sit minus 195 to win the division. So am I happy? Am I content? Am I confident laying almost 200 to win back 100? With San Fran, I would say yes. I'm not going to do it. I don't think it's profitable, but I'm interested in getting your thoughts on the 49ers. You look at their win total, over 11 and a half. So it's 11 juice to the over. Let's start with San Fran, the defending NFC champions. And listen, it wasn't easy during the playoffs, and it certainly wasn't easy in that Super Bowl. And they had their opportunities against Kansas City, and ultimately they lost that game. But that is a team that just, you look at both sides of the football, they are stacked from top to bottom. And barring any type of injuries, I still believe they're the top 2, 3, second, third best team in the NFL along with Kansas City.
Yeah, and in this division, obviously, you started the right spot, and they got to live up to expectations. Q, everybody has dubbed Kyle Shanahan this genius, which he is, a very good coach, but he's got to win that Super
Yep.
Bowl. And you saw in particular situations in the game where the Kansas City Chiefs were able to take advantage, through veteran leadership and obviously the quarterback play. So, but this team was 12-5 last year, so it's right around that number. Um, this is a tough division, though, and the other teams have gotten better. So I would almost maybe think a little bit of the under there. Maybe they come in at 10 wins, 11 wins or so. But when you talk about the Niners, you're talking about a team that's living off of their rookie quarterback is on a low contract. So
Yeah.
they're able to spread money all over the place. They have some of the highest paid players position wise, several spots on this team now. A big key to watch it going into camp is Brandon Ayuk is talking about holding out, and he wants some more money. He obviously saw that money that Justin Jefferson just received, and Deebo Samuel on his own team has gotten some money as well. But it's going to be interesting to see, do they trade him? Do they bring him back in? They do have Jawan Jennings there, who had a very good Super Bowl game, and they have just playmakers all over the place, and their offensive line obviously built around Trent Williams, one of the best left
Yep.
tackles in the league. Um, Christian McCaffrey gets his bonus. He's now even they've extended him even further, but he is 27 years old, and you wonder how much he has left. George Kittle gave him more extension, one of the highest paid tight ends out there. So they're dominant at all their positions
Yep.
out there, but Brock Purdy, is he ready to be that elite quarterback? Is he a game manager like a lot of people say he is? We're going to see. They have 6 primetime games, and they face 9 teams who are playoff teams. So it starts right away. Monday Night Football, week 1, they host the New York Jets. And I'm also going to be pointing to week 7 is a Super Bowl rematch where KC comes to San Francisco. That's going to be a huge game. Their bye is in week 9. And then they down the stretch is going to be interesting. Week 12 at Green Bay, week 13 at Buffalo, right behind that. And then they have a tough game. Week 15 is the Rams, week 16 at Miami, and then Detroit week 17. So a lot of tough games there. I think when you look at all that, they may not make that 12-win total to beat that over there.
Yeah, you mentioned their offensive paralysis, obviously, with Debo and Christian McCaffrey, total 160 yards, total offense for the running back in the Super Bowl. Jennings with the 4 for 42 and a touchdown. They lose that game by 3. And, people will always say when you lose a Super Bowl, right, and you have that hangover, how tough is it to get back and put yourself in that position? Well, you look what transpired 2 years ago with the Eagles, and all of a sudden they look like the team to beat early on, and the 49ers mentally and physically broke that franchise last year, and that started their 6 out of 7 slide, ultimately losing to Tampa Bay in the wild card. But again, the confidence now you have to have in the head coach when he really didn't understand the overtime rules. Like that to me, it kind of trickles and it kind of bleeds into the off season. And you're thinking to yourself, you had so many opportunities to win that game. You had so many opportunities to hoist the Lombardi trophy. It was right there for you. And you lose by 3 in overtime, 25-22. We always talk about that hangover, right? That Super Bowl hangover for teams that win. But for teams that lose, and they lost in just gut wrenching fashion, right? Which seems to be the norm of that franchise over the last several years. Do they respond? I think yes. Do they respond to the tune of 12-5? I don't know, because I'm also concerned with the quarterback, and I know he's a very good quarterback. I like Purdy, but he's a one hit away, man. And I know we can say that about 31 other quarterbacks, but if you look at the depth on the roster in that position, they're in trouble if this kid goes down. So I would say 10, 11 wins. I'm not confident that this team's going to win 12, especially as you laid it out with their schedule.
And they did bring in Josh Dobbs to be his backup. We'll see how he does. He was good in spurts last year, but mostly Q. They're bringing the same group back from before. Older guys like Logan Ryan, he's not there. Randy Gregory let him walk. Chase Young, he didn't really fit there after they traded for him. So same group they're bringing back, but as you were saying, you always have to have that trepidation when you're the Super Bowl loser, and we're going to see what Purdy can do. Is he that top 10 quarterback? Everybody debates whether he is or not. Defensively, they can get after anybody. Nick Sorensen's done a great job with that defense. And statistics wise, gave up 29 per game,
Yep.
which is third. I'm sorry, scored 29 per game, which is third in the NFL. And then they only gave up 17 and a half per game, which is third in the NFL. So big time team, 5-1 in their division, so expect them to win their division. But the Rams are a tough team out there, and Seattle and Arizona didn't make the playoffs, but they've gotten better. But John Lynch done a good job with his team. We'll see if they're able to keep everybody together. But as you were saying, when you make that Super Bowl, whether you win or lose, everybody's got that. What is in it for me? Now it's time for me to get my piece of the change from the whole success.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? You brought up the Rams. I mean, that's a team that 10 wins last year at plus 300 to win the division, and now at 8.5. So the win total 8.5. Thoughts on that Ram squad?
Yeah, Q, that's going to be. I may take the over with that. I think they'll get to 9 wins. And you have to look at this is another team just loaded up. They did a great job in terms of showing Stan Kroenke, the owner, Les Snead, who's the general manager with this team, just getting into the playoffs last year. Obviously, they lost to Detroit, but Puka Nacua, what a great find for them. You put him out there. Maybe Cooper Kupp gets healthy. Their offensive line, which they've been working on for quite some time, they bring in Jonah Jackson over from Detroit to see if he can help solidify that line. Matthew Stafford, big question mark, 35, 36 years old. Is he still the guy that can get it done? He threw for just a shade under 4,000 yards, had 24 touchdowns, only had 11 picks, which you want to cut down on. Running game wise, they may have found somebody in Kieran Williams. I mean, he really was running the ball hard, particularly down the stretch where they were 4-1 in their last 5 games. The Rams were also 5-1 in their division. So Q, it shows you they're not afraid of any of these teams in this division, and they could be breathing down the Niners back. So I think they can beat that 8.5.
Yeah, that's an interesting point with the division record. Last year they overachieved with the 10. wins. No Donald, as you mentioned, but still very good head coach. They got playmakers. Stafford's health. We know he's getting older. I would touch them right around 8. If I was feeling myself a little bit, would I be confident going 9? Sure, why not? And then that leads us into Seattle. New head coach, Pete Carroll regime over. So they bring in Mike McDonald, not of the wasn't there Mike McDonald, the Doobie Brothers, right?
Right a bit. I almost thought you
Okay.
were going to say Ronald
No, no, no.
McDonald.
I gotta pull that up real quick while we're talking about it. But anyway, they're sitting at 7.5 plus 750 to win. Yeah, Michael McDonald, right? I keep forgetting we're not in love anymore. So plus 750 and 7.5. I just go back to the quarterback position. That's kind of my biggest bugaboo with Seattle. And I think they're going to lose something in Pete Carroll, to be quite honest with you. And I think it's rare in the NFL. You know, when you get a first time or first year head coach with a different squad, I always think there's adjustment period. They want to bring in their guys, their coordinators implement their set of scheme, their plays. And I think there's a little adjustment period. I'm leaning towards under with Seattle. I think they're a 6-7 win team. I don't see them winning more than 8 games.
Here's going to be interesting because Jody Allen, who's the owner there, and John Schneider, the GM, they had let Pete Carroll kind of run the whole situation there. And as you're saying, I do kind of expect this team to kind of take a step back. Michael McDonald is, he's a brand new head coach, and then his offense coordinator is Ryan Grubb. He's coming over from the University of Washington there, and Aiden Dirty coming over on defensive coordinator. These are all new guys, new pieces, and you wonder how this is all going to fit together. I do like Jackson Smith and Jigba coming back. He's one of my breakout players. I think he's going to have a very good season at the receiver position. Tyler Lockett getting a little longer in the tooth. He'll probably take a step back. And they do have DK Metcalf. The offensive line has always kind of been a fluid situation with this team. They're always kind of tinkering with it. And we'll see if they're able to help out Geno Smith, who you're alluding to. He has played above expectations,
Yep.
but he's coming off a groin injury. And wonder, is he going to revert back to the bad Geno, who we saw for so many years for the New York Jets? And Kenneth Walker, he's a guy, explosive running back, ran really hard, but he has a shoulder injury, can't seem to stay healthy. I think Zach Charbonnet is really going to get his opportunities. And defensively, they have Leonard Williams, but not much behind that. The secondary is pretty nice, but I do agree with you that they're not going to hit that number.
Another episode of BYP Back Your Play with Q. Rich Quinones here. Lloyd Vance, our NFL Insider, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football and Sports Radio 1029 FM. The game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Kind enough to join us. We are breaking down the NFC West. We are brought to you by Play It Again Sports. And of course, fresh roasted coffee. Check the show notes. 20% off your first purchase. BYP20 or Back Your Play. Pick your flavor and enjoy. As you guys know, we always have to enjoy the coffee on the air. That leads us to Arizona, the big draft pick, Marvin Harrison Jr. You know my thoughts on Kyler Murray. You know my thoughts on the head coach. 6.5. I think it's actually low, to be quite honest. I think this team's going to be able to put up some points. I think they're going to be in some shootouts. I'm looking towards some of these overs with some of these future lines and plays with Arizona. I'm actually going to lean towards Arizona 7 wins.
Q, this is one of my surprise teams around the National Football League. I think they're going to be better. They only had 4 wins last year, and they were just such a mess. Obviously, Kyler Murray had to wait till late in the season to come back from that bad knee injury. And, they bring in Monty Osenfort as their GM, and he's made some good changes. Jonathan Gannon, I wasn't a guy that liked him when he was with the Eagles, but he surprisingly did a nice job with them. And they're starting to assemble some playmakers to help out Kyler Murray. Particularly, I can't wait to see Marvin Harrison Jr., see what explosive player he is. They also brought in Jonah Williams at the left tackle position from Cincinnati. I think he's going to help solidify offensive line where their quarterbacks are constantly under pressure. And they have Paris Johnson, who's a good young player at right tackle. So, Trey McBride, a tight end. And then running back James Conner has found the fountain of youth out there in the desert. So I think Cardinals are going to do pretty well, and I think they're going to actually beat that number, as you were saying. They're going to surprise some people. Their schedule is pretty favorable for them. They're only going to be on prime time one time, so it's going to be interesting to see if we're able to see them. but they do face 8 teams that made the playoffs, and that includes San Francisco and the Rams 2 times this season. So going to be fun to see them. And last year, 0-6 in the division, they only could do better than that.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the injuries with Murray, but they add in the element of Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of people think right away he might be offensive rookie of the year. You mentioned their schedule. It's kind of tough to open up the season for a team that only won, what, 4 games on the road against Buffalo, at home against the Rams, at home against Detroit, at home against Washington. So you get the benefit of 3 straight home games, but then on the road against San Fran and road against Green Bay. Now, that scares me a little bit. You're talking 2-4-6. If they can go 2-4, 3-3, that's great. They've set themselves up nicely, but Chargers should be a win. Chicago, the Jets may be a win. Minnesota a win. Seattle could be a win. New England could be a win. That's why I think they're teetering, right? They might need to beat
Right.
one of those last 3 teams, Carolina, the Rams, San Fran, and maybe San Fran has it locked up in the division. Maybe the Rams are locked
They
up in the
rest.
playoffs, and we need Arizona to get that win to celebrate the holidays and get us over the top and back our play with a little coin. They're plus 1,200 to win the division. I'm going to assume that you believe if these teams have improved, you still like the 49ers winning division. Is this a division where 2 teams will make the playoffs?
I do believe, yes. Last year, you had 2 teams in this division make the playoffs, and I think the Niners will, they'll win it, but it's going to be very close. And they play against the Rams week 15 at San Francisco on Thursday Night Football. That could be a very key game, but I think the Niners have just enough for the season to outlast the Rams. If the Rams are improving, and so are the Cardinals as well.
I just don't look at that division. To me, it's just not a sexy division, right? I mean, I just think the 49ers defensively and really on both sides of the ball, they're a very complete team. And I I believe that if the 49ers, and I don't know if you have their schedule, I'll pull up their schedule right now.
Yeah,
The 49ers, let me pull it up for the audience. All right. So the 49ers, they open up, as you alluded to, the Jets, Aaron Rodgers. Here we go. Then Minnesota, the Rams, New England, Arizona, Seattle. All winnable games. Even if they beat the
yeah.
Jets and start off 6-0, then all of a sudden KC and Dallas. So maybe you lose one of those, you're 7-1 or even 6-2 going into the bye. They've got Tampa Bay winnable games. Seattle again. Green Bay may be tough. Buffalo on the road in December, maybe snow. We don't know. Chicago will be a little better. They stubbed their toe against Chicago last year, did they not? Or what? Right? I think the kid missed a field goal. And then you had the Rams, and then you have Miami and Detroit and Arizona. Teams know that in the NFC, it should really go through maybe 1 or 2 teams. Philly, San Fran. I know people are so high on Green Bay. And then, you know what, Detroit too. I want to be fair there. But point being, if they get out of the gate 5-1, 6-1, we're really not talking about losing that Super Bowl 25-22 in overtime. If they struggle a little bit, then we're going to start to have the argument that it's all about the hangover. It's all about the hangover. And that's never a good thing. It just, I feel as though if they can't figure it out early, then they're going to be in trouble. And I stand corrected. It was the Cleveland game they missed with the field goal 19-17. They had lost 3 in a row, and then they ripped off 6 straight, 7 of 9 to close out the season. But point being, I believe there's a lot of pressure on this team to not only get off to a great start, basically put the loss of the Super Bowl in the rear view window, try to run away with this division, solidify themselves again as a top team, get home field advantage. And the pressure is going to be on, because if not now, when for San Francisco? Because you've got Detroit, you've got, you mentioned you believe the Rams are going to be there. Arizona's going to be a little better. You got Detroit, you got Green Bay on the ride. You still got Dallas, still got the Philadelphia Eagles. The conference is getting much more competitive. So a lot is at stake for the 49ers this season.
Yeah, and they're not going to take this division and just run away with it, kind of like they did last year. And they're the hunted now. And I always
Yeah,
say it's either the hunter than hunted. And now
that's
everybody's
true.
going to want to beat them. And the book is, I'm not saying it's out there on Brock Purdy, but people are going to look at what Steve Spagnuolo did against him in the Super Bowl and try to do the same type of things to this team. And they have some age at some key positions. I just want to see can Christian McCaffrey continue to be healthy, as well as Trent Williams, who's around 35 now. He's a key to their offensive line and their defense. Some of their linebackers getting a little old as well, but quality team top to bottom. John Lynch, you tip your cap to him, what he's built there, this roster. But it's going to be interesting. You talk about that schedule; it's a gauntlet.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, listen, when you are one of the um, top teams at the end of the day, right? I mean, as you alluded to, everyone's going to be gunning for you. And that's just how it is. I just, I always find it's, man, I remember the year the Giants got waxed by Baltimore. They never stood a chance in that Super Bowl. And, you know, just a hangover effect, right? I mean, they just did not show up against Denver to open up the season. The season went astray, and we always look at these follow-up seasons for the teams that lose. Listen, you win, you get a pass, right? You can have a down year after you win the Super Bowl, but it's always, hey, if I'm the runner up, the team that lost, i.e. the Eagles, what are you going to do for an encore? And they played well for relatively most of the season, and then they had that slide, and then they were just non-competitive against Tampa Bay in that wild card. So, but with that being said, NFC West in the books. And as you alluded to, we're creeping in July. You can always catch Lloyd, 8 o'clock Monday, Sports Radio 1029 FM, the game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. He always joins us on Middays with Q, as well as BYP, where we try to break down the games objectively and see if you guys can put a little coin in the pocket. My friend, I always appreciate you jumping on board.
Chief, thanks for having me on.